Hi, everybody. It's Sam Bennett from theorganizedartistcompany.com, and welcome to this, the first of our four community calls, teaching calls, training, free training, bonus calls, whatever you want to call it. I'm joined here by my right-hand head coach and team leader, Leonore Chia. Hi, Leonore.
Hi.
We were just getting to know you a little bit. I logged on a little bit early to have everything, make sure everything's working. Because as we all know, it doesn't always. Good, and I was asking people about some questions about where they were at, so I'm delighted we'll get to as many of those as we possibly can. But mostly, I just really want to welcome you here. I'm so proud of you all for being here, for taking the time to be here. The fact that you are here tells me a lot about your level of commitment, both to the process of starting your own business or of getting more satisfaction out of the work that you are doing already. But also your commitment to your actual life, your commitment to growth, your commitment to making things better, your commitment to making the world a better place for you, your family, and your community. So take that in. Like, we spend a lot of time beating ourselves up about all the things we're not doing and could have been doing better and should have been done yesterday and really should have been done 3 years ago. And I just want to honor you for being here now. This is something you are doing, and you're doing it right. You're doing it right. You're doing your life right, because you can't do it wrong. Okay. So my name is Sam Bennett. I'm the CEO of theorganizedartistcompany.com and author of a number of books. This is Leonore Chia. She's trained in like 18 different coaching modalities, as well as being an online business manager. So she's been on my team for, I think, more than 5 years now. So there's very little Leonore doesn't know about both the inner and outer games of entrepreneurship and personal development. So I'm awfully glad to have you here, Leonore.
Oh, so nice to be here.
Thanks. So let's start with our breathing. Those of you who've worked with me before know that I always want to start with the breathing because, first of all, why not? But also it creates a room for us. It creates a little space that's outside of other times. So if you haven't closed out the other windows on your browser, go ahead and do that. If you haven't turned off your phone, go ahead and do that. Make sure you have a pen and paper. You're going to absolutely need to write some things down during this time. And yeah, just settle into your chair, maybe move your body just a little bit to signal to yourself physically, like, oh, we're doing something else now. This is not part of our everyday. This is separate. This time is separate. And if you want to put your hand on your belly or your chest or your face or hold your own hands, just make contact with your own physical self. Like, your body works so hard for you all day, every day. It shows up and supports you and loves you. And we mostly don't do anything but yell at it. So take a moment to feel your own skin. And we're going to inhale for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8, and we'll do that 3 times. Yeah, you're invited to do it with me. If this kind of thing annoys you and you want to ignore it, that's fine. We'll be done in just a second. So, you ready? Let's inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank you. Thank you for doing that with me. I feel so much better already.
It's amazing how magical that breath is.
Isn't it? And I'll take a moment, as much as I can while I'm teaching this, I'll try and give you as many layers of transparency as I can, because I like to not just teach, but show you why I'm teaching and then show you how that works and why it works, so that you can start to develop some sort of X-ray vision around your business and how business works in general. So I start with that breathing, partly to center myself, I am just as busy as you guys are. And, while sometimes I manage to carve out a good bit of meditation and quiet time before I teach, not always. So to have a minute to gather myself and make sure that I am as present as I can possibly be for you all, it's a service to me as the leader, as the servant leader. It's also a way for me to signal again to you guys that this is a slightly different time. So what I want to tell you is you're allowed to do that too. You're allowed to greet your customers or to start your classes or to start your sessions or to have your opening email or whatever. Be a statement about what's important to you. To me, you all feeling centered and calm, being inside of your bodies, trusting the wisdom of your body, that's all really important to me. So I put that right up top, right? It's also a way to weed people out because there are some people, believe me, who are deeply, deeply annoyed by even something as simple as 3 breaths. And those are not a good match for me. Those people are not ideal clients. So if I annoy them right away, then they'll go away early and we can save us all a lot of time. So God bless the unsubscribes. And some people get annoyed and then learn from it, which is also exciting. All right. So we're here to increase clarity. We are here to increase your clarity. That's the object of the game here. The summit, the interviews themselves were designed to increase your clarity on whether entrepreneurship was something you would even be interested in, for real. Because as you probably heard me say, I feel like there's a lot of information about how to have a side hustle or start your own business online, but most of it is wildly inaccurate, super overstated, super exaggerated, and, make $100,000 in a weekend, or, oh, it's a 90-hour-a-week grind. And, I've had both of those experiences. I've made $168,000 in a weekend, and it was an 80-hour-a-week grind. So, and those are extremes, that's not every day.
We've seen it all, people. We've seen the big paydays, the epic fails, and mostly the long stretches of the slog.
That's right. Exactly. And then while it's a slog, I will say it's never boring. So at least it's your own slog. I was thinking about that last night too. I was like, wow, even when I get stressed out or even when things are hard, it's always things I picked.
That's true.
It's things I chose to work on. I've decided to do this. I remember being stressed out about other people's projects or other people's agendas, and that's exhausting.
Totally. Yeah. And that's why we wanted to call it the True Freedom Summit, because I think for so many of us, that's what it really comes down to, is being able to really stand in the middle of your life and be like, well, it's not perfect, but I did create all of this.
That's right. It's 100% me. Yeah. And for you to exercise the freedom that you do have. I know not everybody has the ability or the wherewithal or even the interest to run their own business full time, but you have an interest in something, right? You want to zhuzh up your life in some way. Maybe it's the work you're already doing. Maybe it's something you want to start. Maybe it's something you're already doing, but it's not going that great. So this is why we're here, is for a greater clarity. So you'll get some increased clarity in these 4 weeks of calls together. We are also running a retreat. It's a very small retreat. It's only for about 25 people, and you have to fill out an application and then have an interview with one of us, because we don't want you there if it's not a good fit for you, right? So if you are feeling like, oh, this is fun, but I'm going to want more help, go ahead and, maybe you can put this link in. It's theorganizederscompany.com/focus 2018. Focus 2018. It's a 3-day retreat that we're doing in July in Burbank. It's going to be amazing. And we'd love to talk to you about it. And really, I hear from people just filling out the application is super valuable. It's just really interesting to see your own answers to the questions, and they get emailed to you. So if you want to just fill out the application and not book a time to talk to us, that's also fine with me. I have no attachment. All right. So tell me, if we're talking about clarity and what increases clarity, what makes you confused? What makes you lose clarity? Where do you get tripped up? We had some questions that were sort of reflected some of this earlier. Amy was saying she goes along with tons of enthusiasm, but then suddenly she has no motivation or interest, even though she loves what she's doing, and everything feels like she's slogging through molasses, right? So that, ebb and flow of your own energy level can absolutely lead to confusion and a lack of clarity. Sarah was asking about our trial and error stages, and I assured her that it was all a trial and error stage.
Yeah, that doesn't clear up, just to be clear.
Yeah. Shirley was saying that she's written a book and has a website and a blog, but now she's feeling really overwhelmed and not comfortable with marketing or self-promotion. So she's clear on the work. It's getting how does she message the work and getting it out there where she gets confused. Very common.
Sarah just commented and said, I lose clarity when others think they know what direction I should go in, and then I get tripped up with comparing myself, and I lose sight of the choices that I made for myself and my organization.
Yes.
Oh my
yes.
God. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Good. Good. Mary says, the seminar is so awesome and insightful and motivating. Yay. Only partway through. Great. Good, Mary. I'm glad you're enjoying that. That's great. We have somebody else saying, I'm in the personal development field as a spiritual life coach, wanting to use the arts in my coaching and teaching and enjoying your right-minded approach. Good. Yes. Thank you. How do you start if you don't have money to start with? Yeah. That feeling of, oh, I'm broke. How can I even begin when I feel so broke? Good. Great questions. Heidi says, launching my coaching business as a side hustle. I feel comfortable marketing thanks to Seth Godin's marketing seminar. Seth Godin, our hero. We love him. But I don't know which marketing tactic to do first. Podcasts, in-person free workshops, doing meetings with influential people who can funnel clients my way. Right, Heidi, good. So that's the other kind of overwhelm that we see a lot, or lack of clarity, is just too many choices. And again, that's not going to go away. So I want to give you a tool today that will help you filter out some of those options, help you guide you in your marketing, and help, I think, clarify what you're up to and give you some immediate zhuzh. Like you can start, even if you feel like, oh, I'm going to have to, I can't do anything right now, but I'm interested in this topic. You're going to end up with something that you can implement starting immediately. That'll, I think, put some sunshine in your life. All right. This thing of lack of clarity, this feeling of overwhelm, this too many options, too many choices. Am I doing this right? How do I know if I'm doing it right? Here's what everybody else is doing. I hate that. I love that. I don't know how to do that. That seems expensive. That seems stupid. That seems hard. Like that, and the just level of information overload is a condition of being. Right? It's not a shortcoming on your part. It's not a failure on your part. It's what happens when you live in the information age. Is there is a ton of information, and everything that makes it so great and possible for us to connect with each other also means we can be sort of overwhelmed by possibilities. Luckily, there is one way to filter out all of it, and that makes everything a lot simpler. And that thing is known by a bunch of different names. I usually refer to it as your values, but you might also refer to it as your big why. Like, what's your why? So we're going to do, Stacy says she's got too many important things going on in her life. Right. So you start to lose your sense of priority because it's an ever-shifting thing, right? And especially this thing of what somebody was saying earlier about, oh, like my energy goes up and down. Yeah, your feelings make a terrible CEO. Your feelings make a terrible marketing director. You need to set up some systems, and we'll talk about those in session 3, I think. We'll talk about business systems to set up so that you're not relying on your own energy level or your own level of self-belief or your own ability to follow up and follow through and do work when you're exhausted. Because, we all have low days, we all have low energy days, and you need your business to be able to keep going no matter what. It can't just rely on your energy spark, because that's you'll eventually run out of gas, right? All right, so we're gonna, and some of you may have done core values work before, mission work. This is a little similar but different. So just allow yourself to get a C with this. Allow yourself to kind of play around, see what happens, what gets unearthed, see if you can surprise yourself a little bit. The more you can get answers that are like, I don't even know why I thought that. That's so random. I love those. Those are the best. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about where we're at so far or what we're up to today? Everybody feel good? This is really, like I said, it's kind of your time. So I want to make sure you're cluing in.
Katie said, you just hit on it for me. My feelings are a terrible CMO/CMO, and my energy has been driving me and then failing me.
Yeah.
It's very common. Yeah.
Totally. And it's one of the big differences between having a job and being an entrepreneur is that when you have a job, it doesn't matter what your energy is. Somebody has told you what to do. They've told you when to be there. They've told you what the parameters of the performance are, and your job is to show up and do it. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot easier when somebody else is setting your agenda for you. I mean, even if it's unpleasant or tedious, it's still easier to engage in a much more uncertain endeavor where it's you really having to pull the train. It's your energy, it's your drive, it's your vision, it's your decision making. It's a lot rougher. So you really need to set up systems to support you. And I will also encourage you, this is a little side note, but just in practicing being more decisive in general.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Gail is saying, but it sucks the life out of you. And Katie's saying, I'm even struggling to do that at my full-time job.
Yeah.
And what I just want to really highlight for people here is that, so much of this is really about leadership. Mm. So much of it is about leadership. And that's what I think we wanted to present to you, that even if you're not thinking about quitting your full-time job and starting a business, there's still so much that opens up in your life when you get this thing about the leadership mindset, like the decisiveness, like when you learn how to manage yourself this way, it can create so much more in your life. So that's like the sense of possibility that I hope comes through to everyone here today.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see if we can get to some of this languaging that'll help you focus in on your why, what will serve as the filter, right? So go ahead and shake your hands out, shake your head, grab a pen. I'm going to do one more breath, and then I'm going to ask you to sort of finish a series of sentences, and I just want you to write down the first word or series of words that come up for you as I give you the prompt. If you can't think of anything, that's fine. Don't try to think of anything. Just let whatever bubble up. And if nothing bubbles up, fine. Something may bubble up later this afternoon or tomorrow morning in the shower. Even one bubble can be very meaningful. So let yourself play around with this. There's not a right or wrong way to do it. So does everybody have pen and paper? There's so many of you here. I'm so pleased. Thanks for coming, everybody. All right. So one more breath. Let's inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I want you to imagine, either with your eyes closed or your eyes open, a world that is almost exactly like this one, but a little bit better. It's just a little bit better, just 1 or 2% better. And I want you to make the picture of that in your mind and look around and see, what do you notice about the world that makes it better? What do you notice about this imaginary world that makes it better? What is it specifically that makes it better? Oh, I see people being more polite to each other. That makes it better. I see people being more loving and self-accepting of themselves, and that makes it better. I see people making art, standing on the corner, just painting everywhere. That makes it better. I see people really honoring their own sexuality and their own sexual energy, and that makes it better. Like, what is it for you as you imagine this better world? What is it? And go ahead and just write down a word or two that describes what that is. Good? Good. Second thing, Mary says people use blinkers. Yeah, exactly. People use their turn signals. That says to me maybe people are being more considerate of others, right? Taking the whole into consideration in addition to their own needs. Good. Now, second thing, I want you to bring to mind a real top of the world moment for you. Just a memory, a personal memory for you that you just felt great. And it could be a big moment, like standing there waiting for your sweetheart to walk down the aisle, or a little moment, just a moment floating in the ocean in Mexico, or but some moment where you looked around, maybe a moment from your childhood where you looked around and you were like, this is great. This is just great. And just allow the picture of that moment to be in your mind for a minute. Allow yourself to feel the feelings of that moment. And now make a note about what is it that made it so great? What word or phrase would you use to describe that feeling? Oh, it felt so great because I really knew I'd accomplished something. It felt so great because we'd really pulled together as a team. Or it felt so great because I was really feeling so tender and loving in that moment. What's the feeling? What's the name of the feeling that was happening while you felt so on top of the world? Good. Now, the third mind picture I want you to make is your favorite place, your favorite physical location, and a specific place. So like if it's Paris, it's that chair in that cafe. If it's a place in your house, it's curled up in that corner of the couch with this duvet on top of me. Just call to mind whatever bubbles up first when I say your favorite spot. And again, allow yourself just to make the picture of that spot. What can you see? What do you feel? What do you notice about that spot? It can be historical. The bedroom in the summer house we would go to, the cabin we'd go to when I was a kid. It smelled a little like mildew. It was so great. Like, read Nancy Drews, whatever made it special for you. And again, see if you can capture what is it about that space? How do you feel while you're there that makes it feel so great? I love it because it feels so open. I love it because it feels so warm and snuggy. I love it because it feels so craptastic. I love it because it feels so what? Good. So we've got 3 words so far. A world that's a little bit better than us. Some words that describe how you felt in your top of the world moment. Some words that describe your favorite place, your favorite physical location. And now I want you to call to mind a favorite person. Just someone that anytime you think of them, you go, oh, I just love them. And it can be somebody famous, somebody in your life, somebody who's passed on, somebody you know well or don't know well, doesn't matter. Whoever bubbles up first is the right one. And as you think about it, just call that favorite person to mind. Just notice them inside of your mind. It doesn't have to be your favorite person of all total time. It's just your favorite person in this moment right now. That's for the purposes of this exercise. Don't have a competition with yourself about who you love most. Just somebody that you're just adoring right now. And again, what is it about them? What's the word or feeling that describes what makes them your favorite right now? And again, there might be a few, that's fine. I'm thinking about an actor that I love, and I love that he's serious and goofy at the same time. And I love how self-determined he's being about his career. I think that's really cool. So I'd write down serious, silly, self-determining, something like that. Good. I'm going a little fast on purpose because I don't want you pondering or getting perfectionistic about this. I just want you going onto the page, okay? We can tidy it up later. The 5th thing I want you to write down now, call to mind one of your favorite, again, no need to have a competition with yourself about your ultimate favorite, but one of your favorite books or movies or pieces of art or pieces of poetry, whatever comes to mind first when I say, the one that, again, every time you come across it, you're like, oh, I love this. I love this piece. I love this TV show. I love this film. I love this poem. I love this sculpture. And just let it appear there in your mind. Notice it, see it. Notice your emotional connection to it. Notice the energetic connection between you and this piece that someone created. And again, what's the word that describes that piece for you? What is it about it that you love it, that makes you love it so well? I love it because it's so dumb. It's so dumb and so great that it's so dumb. I love it because it's so insightful about people. I love it because it's hilarious and witty. I love it because it's old-fashioned and British. I love it because what is it that makes you love it? Good. So far we've got a world that's a little better than this one, your top of the world moment, your favorite place, favorite person, favorite piece of art. And now there's two more. The next one is a quality of yours that your folks would approve of, your one or both of your parents, and whoever you think of when I say parents, your mother figure or father figure. They may or may not obviously be your biological parents. But when you think of your folks, whoever you pick as your folks, what's a quality of yours that that you and they are both proud of? Like, I'm in general quite polite. And I think that's something that my parents would approve of and that I generally approve of about myself as well. Right? Or maybe it's, that I fight injustice every time I see it. And I learned that from my parents and they passed it on to me, and I love that part of myself, even if it gets me into trouble. Right? So something about you that your folks, however you want to define folks, would approve of. Good. And last one, looking at the words you've already written, what's another word that belongs on this list? What's another word that you love, another feeling that you love? Again, if you've done, core values work or mission work before, like what's a word that you're like, oh, it would not be complete without this word? And sometimes they're kind of obvious. Like I always have to remind myself to put creative on my stuff because to me it's so obvious. Like, of course my stuff is about creativity. That's all I do. But I don't always think to name it that way because it's the water I swim in, right? So the last one is just looking at the words of the descriptors you've written down so far, the adjectives or feelings or qualities that you've written down so far, add another word to that list. A word that captures something for you, a word that you love. Just something that hasn't been captured so far. And again, you can't do it wrong, so whatever you get is fine. Good. Excellent. All right, so now you should have at least 7 and possibly more than 7 words or phrases. And these words and phrases capture your values. And by values, I mean the system of beliefs that drives your actions. To me, values are the system of beliefs that drive your actions. It's how you prioritize the world. It's how you interact with the world. You will always know when your values are getting trampled on because you get mad, you get outraged, right? You'll always know when your values are being engaged because you have extra feeling, right? I think about Tom's shoes, right? Those simple little Brazilian slippers. Who could get somebody to pay $65 for those simple little cotton slippers? Except they told us, buy one, we'll give a pair to a child in need. And we all went, that totally corresponds with my values. I have a value of cool shoes, and I have a value of helping other people have cool shoes. That's great. I will cheerfully give you that money, right? So this is where your values are at. I'm curious to know what words showed up for you, and where you don't have to type this in, but you can just answer for yourself. Where are your values really active right now? Like, wow, I wrote down a lot about friendship and belonging, and I really don't have that in my life right now. I miss my friends, and I need to, maybe I can schedule a lunch date or something. I can do something to up my feelings of belonging in the world. Or I want to make sure that everybody I work with feels like they belong. I'm going to make sure that all my customers and clients really have a sense of belonging to my community and to my family. And so I'm going to play that up. Right? So I'm being a little scattershot and giving you a lot of examples of how these things could be used, but that's because there's a lot of ways in which these can be used. But you can start to see how they'll filter out the things that don't matter to you. They'll filter all those opportunities somebody was talking about earlier, like, do I do a podcast? Do I do a blog? Do I do workshops? Right? Taking a look at that list of opportunities and this list of values, is there one that pops out? Right? Is there one that you go, oh, wow, if this list of values is what's going to guide me, I definitely don't want to do this, and I definitely do want to do this. Do you know what I mean? So I realize this is a little bit different than most people might teach entrepreneurship. But I love to teach with this both inner and outer perspective, right? So we're starting with what is inside you, what is true and native to you. You are perfectly equipped to do the work you love, and you don't need to be any better or smarter or cooler or sharper or have another certification to do what you love. Your values make you a force for good in the world. And if you bake them into your business, they will make your business a force for good in the world. If you bake them into your business self, it'll make your 8 hours at work a force for good in the world. Gail says, mine had a general theme of connectedness to God and the universe, and the fact that I do not want to do anything that doesn't resonate with that feeling. Right, great. So again, look for more opportunities. Can I say a prayer every time I get behind the wheel of a car? Can I send blessings to people as I'm walking through the Trader Joe's? Can I send out a daily email to my list of how I felt connected to God today, or how God revealed God's self to me today, right? Veronica says, silliness, peacefulness, wildness, as in wide open spaces, places for animals to live, cheerfulness, upbeatness, color, wonderment, weirdness, inclusiveness. No surprises here. Yeah, Veronica, you are totally on brand. Veronica's in our VIP program and called 365 Club Pro. She's a pro. And yeah, those are totally right on for you. So hearing Veronica's words, so she makes, among other things, little resin animals, little some of which are slightly botanical, like snails and insects and things, and some of which are like, gentle woodland creatures. Veronica, you can tell me if I'm not saying this right. And one of the things we talked about with her a while ago is that she doesn't sell her pieces. She puts them up for adoption. They get adopted, right? So you can start to see how her sense of silliness and inclusivity and upbeatness and color fuel not just the work that she does, but the way in which she does it, right? Stacy says, humor showed up twice in my list. Authenticity is important. Right, so then again, anytime you go through your price list or your brochure or your webpage, to go like, well, where's the fun? Where's the joke in here? Like, where's the funny part? Here's my price list. This oil painting is $3,500. $35,000, and this thing is this, and advice free, my judgment about what you're wearing free. Where can you, I often do that with my emails. I'll go back through and go like, okay, how can I make this better? How can I make this more interesting, more engaging, more literate, more funny, more something? Because writing is, language is important to me. Sherry says, this is so helpful. I've been through other values exercises before and struggled. Yes, the answers to these questions totally align with what I believe in. Good. Thank you, Sherry. And thank you for saying that. Yeah, here's the thing, most values exercises, like they start with your head, and your logic isn't so helpful with values, right? If I just ask you, what are your values? You're going to say the same thing everybody says, right? You're going to say, oh, my family and my health and, and those things are absolutely valuable and absolutely values to you. But I'm talking about what are the things that get you up out of bed? Like, what are the things that get you up in the morning? Like, what will make you change the channel? What will make you work when you don't want to work? What will make you make the phone call that you feel too shy to make? If you're not doing it on behalf of yourself, but you're doing it on behalf of weirdness and inclusivity in the world, that will rocket fuel your ability to do it. So to go back to that hesitancy around marketing, and self-promotion, yeah, that's that feeling of like, I'm just going to stand here in the middle of the room and say, hey, everybody, look at me because my stuff is amazing. Like, of course that feels awful. Of course that feels awful. Don't do that. Your marketing should never feel like that. But if it feels like, oh, my marketing is an expression of my connection to God. My marketing is, Michelle says, sparkly, magical, movement, alive, peaceful, warm, loving, simplicity, increase, well-behaved, beautiful. So even just those words stacked up together, right? I can start to see colors and images and ideas. And next time you don't know where to start with something, start with one of those words. Any one of them. What are you noticing about this, Leonor?
Oh, I'm just loving like the energy that comes out of the words people are posting.
Yeah.
And I love how like specific and weird they are, and how like the more specific it is, the better. I don't know. I was just thinking about, I'm looking for a new place to live. So I was just thinking about this in the context of how people talk about themselves in housing ads, which is a really, really interesting marketing experiment. And just thinking about I was like, I need to start putting my list into my into my housing ad.
Absolutely. And I remember doing an exercise not this exact one, but one very similar to it a couple of years ago in a workshop. And the woman had been debating with herself about whether or not to move. And when she got her list of values out, she was like, oh my God, I have to move this morning. Like, I have to move right now. Like, no wonder I hate my house.
Yeah.
Because it was a good deal. Like, all that logical stuff was it was like, oh, it's a good deal. It's convenient. It's blah, 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 blah. But it wasn't matching who she was. So she never really felt like she could relax there. It never really felt like home.
This is a really great illustration of what it feels like to live a life that's justified by things by like, well, it's a good deal and, it's close to my work and it's okay for now. But just like the words are one thing, but the energy underneath it is another, versus like how we feel when we read these lists of our own values and we're like, yes, this is a place I can really live.
Yeah. Yeah. And to create from that sense of expansion and acceptance. And so here's what I want you to start doing. I'm loving that you guys are posting these. They're so great. Go ahead and post them in the Facebook community too, if you're not, if you're in that on that page, because I think that would be a great way to share these and be able for you guys to comment on one another. It's also, we were talking before about like, oh, you start to think of that logical things, like, oh, it's a good deal, therefore it shouldn't matter that I don't actually care about it. And we see it conversely too, like, well, I can't possibly spend that much money on XYZ. It's like, honestly, if spending that money is going to grow your values and grow your sense of comfort and joy in the world, then there's no amount of money that's not worth it, right? Your return on investment is immediate when what you are buying is a reflection of your values. Sarah asks, can you have too many values? I have quite a lot of words written. You can, and I don't want you to confuse yourself. So go ahead and just what I would suggest you do is two things. One is see if you can kind of clump them up, because there's probably ideas and themes that kind of repeat. Like, oh, I've got friendly and I've got outgoing and I've got chatty, and those kind of all three sort of reflect the same thing to me. So I'm going to call that friendly girl. I'm the friendly girl, and don't worry if you've got things that seem to kind of contradict each other. That's fine. That's where things get interesting, honestly. And so yeah, if you can narrow it down to like, I don't know, 5 to 7, like you can have, you can keep the whole list in front of you. And if you want to make some art about it or make a little word collage or something, I think that's really fun. But for the sake of your business, I would narrow it down to 5 or 7 that really resonate for you. And I'll tell you, I think I actually posted it on the Facebook page, but so the values of the Organized Artist Company, for example, are creativity, authenticity / transparency, kindness, good humor and fun, and then the thing I call the perfect word, right? So when I have a problem, say, like, I don't know, there's somebody who owes me money. How about this? There's a colleague who owes me a fair amount of money. And every time it comes up to deal with him, I think, okay, so this person owes me this money. What is the creative, authentic, kind, transparent, good-humored, literate way to handle this situation? And all of a sudden, I have a come from, right? I have a way to start moving. Because there could be a voice in my head that says, well, you should take him to small claims court. That's what you should do. And I could. But that doesn't feel very creative or authentic or kind or to me or good humored. Feels kind of awful. So for now anyway, that's not what I'm going to do, right? So I can come at what's even a problem situation in a way that feels really good to me and hopefully feels good to him. So here's what I want you to start doing with these words. So good, you guys. I want you to just start throwing them around. Just start experimenting. Just take this whole next week and just put these words anywhere you put words. Put them on sneak them into your Facebook posts, put them in your emails, use them in conversation. Somebody says, how are you feeling? And you say, oh, I feel spiritual, creative, connected, and compassionate. How about you? Like, oh, I feel upbeat. Oh, I feel, right? Why use the word fine? How are you? Fine. How are you? Fine. How are you? I feel calm. That's how I feel. I feel calm. People will react, right? They will like, oh, wait, she's giving me an honest, authentic answer. Hold the phone, right? So just start throwing them around and just see what ones resonate for you, for other people. Sometimes there are words that other people, don't really get. Like, I love the word perspicacious, but nobody ever uses that word anymore. If they ever did, nobody ever uses the word perspicacious. So like, I keep that quietly inside of myself as a word that I love. But I don't put it out in the world very much because, Katie says, I'm applying for jobs, so I'll try some of my cover letters. Exactly. And Katie, I'll go you one better. If there's, when you're there in the interview and they say, so tell us about yourself. Pick one of those words and then tell a story about it. Right? Sonia says, I feel purposely fun and magical today. Thanks for asking. Exactly. Oh, Veronica, because she's a helpful person, just define perspicacious as, yes, it's insightful. Having a ready insight into an understanding of things. Yeah. Has to do with insight and perspective. Okay, so project number 1, start throwing these words around anywhere you can find them. Find a place to put them. 2, start noticing other businesses, other celebrities, other people in your field, other who share your values. Who else is like this? Who else is doing this kind of thing? Who else is using this kind of language? Who else is alluding to this kind of a world, right? And maybe who isn't, right? If you were to use these words as your marching orders, like this is what you have to do today, is you have to feel this way. You have to approach your work in this way. You've got to do things this way. Notice what you would do. Like, what's the magical way to commute to work today? Right? What's the fun, inclusive way? What's the self-determined, hopeful way? What's the, you know, the whatever, what, you know, how can you do it? What does it mean that you do, and what would it mean that you don't do? Melinda says, what is what my words still seem to be things I feel I need to change about me to be able to make this work? I
think she means what if. Mm-hmm.
What if my words still seem to be things I feel I need to change about me to be able to make this work? I would drop that belief like a hot potato, Melinda. These beliefs, this is who you are. This is your special gift. You were made this way on purpose. You didn't ask to be this way. And I know it's easy, especially when you're leaning towards the creative, offbeat, unusual, anachronistic, iconoclastic, perspicacious, you know, when you're sort of over here in the unusual person land, to feel like, oh, that's not going to fit in. Nobody's going to want to buy that. Nobody's going to understand that. But I'm here to tell you, it's not true. And the more you lean into the truth of who you are and express the truth of who you are in both your life and your work, the happier person you will be. And the more you will attract the people in your world who love and adore you for exactly who you are. Leonor's especially good with this inner critic work. Do you have anything to add to this about like, oh, I don't feel like I'm... She says, I think it's just an ingrained thing that I fear being me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, I just recognize that, I really recognize that as a part of you, you know, I'm sure there's this part of you that's afraid of being you, just as there are probably other parts of you that love being you and are, you know, can also be like really, you know, like know that this is who you are, and that it feels good to express that. So, you know, just recognizing how much that's based in like your safety, you know, or in that part's idea of what you're supposed to do to be safe. And that often that those parts of us are working off of old maps. But I think, you know, the more we live our values and give ourselves the experience of just how good it feels to be in the world when we're living from this place, it actually helps to build a lot of trust with ourselves, because we see like, oh, people respond to me so much better, so much more openly and clearly, like when I'm being me, you know. And so like it really gives you the experience that helps you build more trust with yourself. Heather asks, is it better to put these words into the business plan I just started, or begin again and explore where these values go?
Either way. I mean, I would give yourself a couple of days, like I said, of living with them. And there may be some words you want to look up. There may be some words that you feel like, oh, wait, where's all the stuff about, you know, what a rebel I am? That didn't show up at all in this, and that's got to be there. So you may want to take a couple of days to sort of tinker with it. But by the end of the week, I think go ahead and have them down to 5 or 7. And definitely look at the plan, whatever you've created already, next to your values, and go like, do these things match? Do they go together? Or is there a way I can infuse more of my values into this plan, or into this work, or into this program, or into this offering? These words also probably serve to describe a lot of your ideal client, right? So if you're wondering, who do I work with? You want to work with people like that, people who share these qualities, people who value these qualities, people who think these things are important. So this is the other bit about marketing and self-promotion that feels really awkward, right? Is that feeling like, well, I don't want to convince anyone. I don't want to have to like pitch myself. Right. No, don't. You can't convince anyone of anything. You may have noticed, you can't convince anyone of anything. Right. Let me just say that one more time. You do not have the power to convince anyone of anything. Stop trying. It's futile. Bad strategy. What you can do is be so authentically yourself that you are sort of magnetic. You become like the whistle only dogs can hear, right? The people who vibe with you will find you. And the people who don't vibe with you will not find you. All the better. So if you're confused about, oh, who do I work with? we want to find the people who are already into these values, right? If there are any that trouble you, that feel sticky for you, some of them probably exemplify both some of the finest moments of your life and some of the hardest, loneliest moments of your life. Like, it's great to be magical until you're at the mall in a world of muggles and no one can understand what you're saying, right? So remember that all these values have reflected both the sunshine and the shadow of you. And if any of it was really giving you the feels, make some 5-minute art about it. Make some 5-minute art about it. Isabella says, I've been shamed for most of these words. You bet you have. You bet you have. We all have. And you've also been celebrated for most of those words. So, but like I said, if there's any that are particularly, heavy for you, and when I say make some 5-minute art, what I mean is grab a piece of typing paper and a pen and make stick figures. Like, just don't draw good. Don't be a good drawer. We're just trying to get that feeling out. Like, what is the feeling of being isolated because you're smarter than everybody else in your family? What is the feeling of knowing that you have the magical power to talk to plants and animals and nobody else seems to think that they do? What is the feeling of that? Make some art about the feeling. And maybe if you don't want to draw, maybe you make up a song or a dance, but just give that feeling some expression, right? Let that feeling out of the bottle a little bit. Okay. Okay, good. Let me answer some of your actual questions here. Are your values different from your business values? How do they differ and overlap? Are my values my business values? Yeah, I think, especially for the purposes of where most of you are at right now, I think they're one and the same. I wouldn't worry too much about public and private, because again, we want to show up authentically in the world, and that means it's you. So your values, yeah. I think that they're one and the same right now. Would I hire someone simply because they demonstrate one or more of these words or qualities, or all of them? I would only hire someone who demonstrated these qualities. If you watch the interview with Clayton Mask, he taught me in a whole room full of other people. You hire and fire exclusively to core values. Exclusively to core values, because you can teach the skill set to anybody. We seem to have lost Leonore. I hope she'll come back. Okay. You can teach anybody to do anything, but you cannot teach people to be kind. You cannot teach people to be generous. You cannot teach people. I mean, you can give them protocol to encourage them to be that way, but you can't teach someone to go the extra mile. So yes, I would absolutely use it for hiring team. Heather says rebel should be in there. Thank you. Wow. Yeah. Rebel, sarcastic, small, petty. I mean, Larry Seinfeld was all about nothing, right? It was all about pettiness. That man made a fortune. He's made 3 fortunes about pettiness and smallness. There's nothing they're not buying, people. Katie says, you said your clients have these values too, but for those who coach or teach, aren't the ideal clients missing but wanting these values? No, they may want more. They may want to know how to activate those values more in their life, but they already have some of them. Yeah, for sure. And we're not looking, they don't need to be 100% match. And notice that like politics doesn't really come up on this, right? I work with lots of people whom I disagree with politically or on social issues. But that's okay. That's not what I'm working with them on, right? The part that I'm working with them on is the part that we can agree about. It's the values we share. How do you know that somebody has these values? You ask them to tell stories about themselves and you listen to the words they use. Stacy says, I find that my most successful business projects are the ones that reflect at least 3 of my values. The more, the better. Yep. Carol says, and I use it for relationships too. Core value match. Exactly. Great. So you guys are totally getting this. And I really want you to get the infinite variety, the infinite number of ways you can use this. You can use it in your marketing. You can use it in your conversations. You can use it to design programs. You can use it in naming things. You can use it, like I said, as an inspiration for colors and totems and shapes and logos. There's a terrific book by Kip Tindell called Uncontainable. He created the Container Store. Containable. And it's one of the best books I've read about really baking your values into your business. And talking about hiring, he talks about a principle he has about hiring people who are 3-in-1. They're so smart, they're so capable, they're good at so many things. It's like hiring 3 people. And I have to say, I took that to heart and it's served me well. If you're enjoying this kind of work, if this is sort of lighting you up and making things feel possible and doable for you, I want you to think about coming to the retreat with me. So you can go to theorganizederscompany.com/focus21 or focus 2018, FOCUS 2018, and just check out the dates and fill out the application. Because like I said, answering the questions is super valuable. And if you're really interested, then or you think you might even be a little bit interested, book a time. It's just a little 20-minute chat. There's no hard sell. If it's not a good values match, I don't want you there. So, but we'd be delighted to have you. You guys have already proved yourselves to be our kind of people, right? You've showed up and you're interested and dedicated. And so even if you're at the still dreaming stage, you can see this kind of work applies anyway. And if you've already got a plan, this will support you in the plan. And if you've already got a business, this will support you in growing the business. And you'll see as we roll out the next couple of weeks. But it is in early July, so you want to make a move. The last thing I'll leave you with is another little action step. Ask yourself as you go through your day, how can I be 1% more me right now? How can I show up 1% more me in this moment right now? And just notice what that calls up for you. Like even just as I'm driving, how can I be 1% more me? Oh, I might be singing along to this song if I was really being more me. If I'm writing this email, I might add in something a little more compassionate than what I've just written. I might add in a little joke. I might be a little more tender. I might give myself a break. I might, what is it? Just keep asking yourself, how can I be 1% more me in this moment right here? And just notice how that sparks you up. Notice how that makes you show up a little bit differently. You're right. I misspelled it. It's Kip Tindell, Tindell, and the book is called Uncontainable. And you can go to theorganizederscompany.com/focus 2018. And you want to do that earlier rather than later. Somebody says, thank you, Sam. This is a great talk. Love it. I'm so glad. I'm looking forward to next week already. If you have questions, please pop them on the Facebook page. I'll be in and out of there. And so will Leonore in order to help support you in this journey. So any last questions? Isabella says, ditto. My workplace doesn't match most of my values. Yeah, that's a hard way to be. That makes for a long 8 hours. I've had that job too. That's hard. Karen says, thank you so much. I appreciate you and your generosity. My pleasure. Let's do one more breath to close out the circle. You ready? Let's inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Linda says, super insightful. It's one of her words. Yay! Thanks, everybody. Good job.